Hi, this is Lucy, your clarity coach, and this is Tuesday Talks at 3. Welcome to the Mindful Parenting series. I'm so happy to be back to Tuesday Talks at 3 after my wellness break. I feel energized. I feel recharged. I am so ready to go and really grateful. This wellness recharge that I took and I insisted on doing it for myself has really brought me back to Tuesday Talks at 3 with such clarity. Now, the Mindful Parenting series is specifically to help you, the parent, reduce stress. And I'm so sure everybody wants to reduce stress. Hey, Havere, lovely to see you there. I see you've put in a request to come on live with me. Would you like to come on live with me, Havere? Or did your fingers do the walking right there and ask its own question? Well, while Havere is answering that question, I do hope it's going to be a yes so we can have her on to share with us about the presence when it comes to mindful parenting. And maybe, Havere, you could share with us your experiences. The question of the day is coming. So this helps you to reduce stress. We all want to have stress reduced. It helps us to enhance connection. And when I say connection, it means connection with your children, because this is now mindful parenting season. Let's see. Havere says fingers did the walking, bad flu at the moment. Oh, pole sana, pole. We wish you a quick recovery. Quick recovery. And now your children need to be parented at this point. Let's hope that whatever best practices that you have exercised with them, Havere, that now they are going to reverse parent you. But that's a subject for another day. So apart from reducing stress, when you have mindful parenting kind of practices, you are able to increase on the connection with your children and attract more thoughtful responses to challenges, because we all face challenges when we are raising children. Now, children and parents here, I'd like you to interchange it, with parents as guardians. So we could be guardians and children could be the wards. So you could be taking care of children who are not biologically yours. You could be a teacher. You could be a facilitator. You could be a trainer. You could be in a hostel, so you're a matron. So these are not biologically your children, but they're under your care. So you become a guardian and the children then are your ward. So mindful parenting could be falling down very well for you, falling along for you so well, so that you can understand, what do I need to do? Now, in our first episode, we looked at awareness. And that was awareness for a parent. And remember, we're interchanging the words here so that I don't need to keep on repeating them. When you hear me talking about mindful parenting, think of yourself as a guardian. You hear me talking about children, think of them as the wards. And even the children here, they will also imagine that they are being taken care of by an adult in the room. So in awareness, we talked about three things. One was about managing your emotional responses. So first, you had to be aware of managing your emotions. How do I respond when something is done? And an example that we gave in our first session, you can always catch up on this episode on my YouTube channel, LMC Consultancy. But we gave an example of a child throwing a tantrum. So a child is throwing a tantrum. When they do, it's never the opportune moment. It's the time when you just don't have patience or tolerance for that moment of that tantrum being thrown. But think about it. You are being triggered by something. This tantrum is triggering something in you. Okay, that's an awareness. What is it? Why are you reacting in this way? And how can you respond? This is the awareness of your emotions. Figuring out, why do I show up in this way? And when my child does this, I react in a certain way. That is just reframing a narrative so that now you are responding. And there's actually an example that was being shared there, that whenever I felt ill, because then I had a medical condition, and when I was ill, I got very irritable. But what I did is I would then inform my children. Every time you hear mom saying, I gave them a term, and I'm sure if they're listening now, they're so embarrassed. But the term was tamu sana. So when mom says tamu sana, just know that mom is feeling so much pain. And therefore, it allowed us to have a mindful connection because I was sharing with them what I was going through. That was the awareness that I had. That when I was going through this condition, I got irritable. So of course, if I had my children around me and they triggered it off with something untoward, I was going to blow up. But if the two of us, because there are two children, if the three of us were all together and we knew what was happening in that situation, I was able to manage my emotional response. So powerful. In fact, they got to a point where they started telling other people, leave mom alone for at least 10 minutes. Let the medicine drop in. They don't tell them that, but they would just say, leave mom alone for 10 minutes. She needs a moment. And that was me managing my emotional responses. So I stopped reacting because I was so quick with my hand. But now I stopped reacting with my hand, but with communication. The other one was fostering a healthy community. And it's actually just a natural progression from that. So I was fostering this healthy community. And last was creating a calm, nurturing environment for the family. And I can see, Sally, you are sharing, there are times, I can see that you're saying, there are times the answers that come out, it's just anger. I know, Sally, I hear you. But at that time, they have nothing to do with my reaction. Possibly the noise around me at that time, scatterbrain at that time. So to be aware. So true, Sally. We need to be aware of who we are. Because once we know who we are, then we know how we are showing up. Think about this. Even if we're not talking about children here or any ward that is under your guardianship, think about any situation that you are in and somebody does not come out the way you expect them to. I'll give an example of a waiter in a restaurant. You want a waiter to be able to come to you within minutes of you sitting down, give you a menu or ask you to scan a QR code, take your order, and within the first 5 minutes, you can understand I'm from hospitality industry, within the first 5 minutes, your drink should have arrived. So if you're coming from a place carrying baggage of things that have happened to you, you're going to take it out on this waiter. When actually this waiter was just having a slow day, or maybe it's their first day, or there's baggage they are carrying. But it is not the waiter's responsibility to manage your emotions. It is your responsibility. So being aware of what happens when I'm off the game, what happens when I'm tired, what happens when I'm hungry. Some people, when they're hungry, they get very irritable, and therefore the words that come out of their mouths, they cannot be taken back. But after they eat, they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. But the words have already landed for somebody else. So awareness, Sally, you're right. Awareness is key. We must be aware of who we are. So it is from this context that now we come into our scheduled talk for today, which is on presence. So are you present for your children? And then we'll finish it off with our last episode, which is going to be in another week, which is going to be on practices. Now that you're aware, now that you understand what being present is, because we're going to lay it out, what practices then can you be able to put in every day to make sure that you are sustainable in whatever it is that you do? And that is mindful parenting. And remember, as you parent, it doesn't end. It goes through all ages. So you start off with them when they're really tiny. But even as old as they become, they are still your children for as long as you're alive. They are still your children. So today's question is, how can parents stay present with their children? How can parents stay present with their children? So please share with me here your thoughts. How is it that you stay present with your children? What are the different things that you can do? And let's learn from one another. So in this particular episode, I'm going to look at tips on how to stay present exactly with your children. I'm going to share these with you. And these are experiential because it's something I have lived. As I said, my children are 2. They're adults now. They've got their own life. So we've got a 20-year-old, 28-year-old, and a 30-year-old. So tip number 1 is routines. And this has worked so well for me. I am the queen of routines. In fact, my character style is being compliant. I am such a compliant person. It annoys a lot of people. I stick to the rules as much as I can, unless there are some circumstances, extenuating circumstances, that stop me from obeying the rules. I am the one standing in front. In fact, you might say I'm the teacher's pet. So routines work very well for me. But can I just say something? Structure and routine is important where children are concerned, at least in their early years, because then they know what's going to happen next. We take them to school, ladies and gentlemen. And in school, there's a time to go into school, then the bell rings. What happens when the bell rings? Everybody moves to whatever class it is they're moving to. What happens then when the bell rings at the tea time or the break time, actually it's break time in school? Then we all know where we need to go to have our break. These are the structures and routines that happen in school. So don't think that when you try to have structure and routine at home, it's too much. No, this is the best environment within which a child can thrive or thrives. For instance, if you have a routine of the time that they go to sleep, then actually there's no discussion. At that time, this child needs to be asleep. It's a routine and they get used to it and they are better for it. And you, like I promised you in the beginning of this session, your stress is reduced. You're able to be calm because you followed a routine. But anyway, I get off track there. With routines, it's important that you find pockets of time that make sense. So let's talk about something like a meal time. Meal times are important, and I know you're going to tell me that with etiquette, dining etiquette, we shouldn't be talking at the table. Everybody should be quiet, chewing with their mouths closed, and that is granted. We totally agree. However, in our busy schedules today, we find that in some families, sitting around a dining table is the only time, the only pocket of time that can be used to be able to check in on everybody. So this is a pocket of time that is a routine. It could be that you pick and drop your children from school. That is a routine. That is something else you can look at as a routine. Maybe your routine is taking them for activities on a Saturday or a Sunday. Maybe that is when they go for football. Maybe it's first thing in the morning they're going for swimming, or they are going for acting classes, or they're going for dance classes. Whatever it is that is a routine in your home is an opportunity for you to create your presence. An opportunity for you to create your presence. Because you can choose to drive them to school. Everybody is quiet. There's music. You're listening maybe to the news, depending on the time that you're driving. Or everybody's chattering in the back on their own gadgets before they can't use them in school. And then all that time that you could have used in a routine way to stay present with your children is lost. Or you are plugged in to your calls that you're doing before you go to the office. These are spaces that you can use to be present for your children. It's a choice. So be mindful of these opportunities and use them to your benefit. Not only to make connections with your children, but to strengthen the bonds. Maybe you can choose on that morning drive. This is when we all say our prayers together. And we command the morning and the day. And we make it make sense. Maybe today we are talking to one particular child about a certain issue. For instance, it is the day they're going in for their exams. So it is us talking with this child, all of us in the vehicle, being present for this child. Maybe asking them, what are you feeling right now? What are you going to be doing in the classroom at a certain time? You're having a conversation that is intentional during a routine ride. So don't lose that opportunity. I loved the times that I was in the vehicle with my children. And my questions were after school specifically, because I would pick them after school. And I would ask them, what did you like about the day? I remember I used to ask, how was your day? And when I would ask about how was your day, either they would be quiet because they don't want to commit, or they would ramble on about something that really did not make tangible sense. But when I asked the right question, For instance, what did you like about your day today? You couldn't stop them rambling on, but about something specific. It was not about talking about everything. And from there, we pick on to the next conversation. What did you learn about that experience? Or what was challenging about your day? What did you find that was so hard today? And this child will speak. But there were times when my children or my child would not want to talk. And at that point, I would guarantee them and give them the assurance that I am there for you when you're ready to talk. You just come and tell mommy that now you're ready to talk and I'll be there. They felt secure. So that was in the routines, me being present. So the question still remains today, how can parents stay present for their children? So because I did this all the time, I became consistent and therefore they expected it. I didn't do it one day and then another day I don't do it. In fact, one of the things that I did very well for my children was to be able to give them an opportunity, a space to talk. And it was not that because mommy was the adult and she was in charge of the conversation. It was about what did you want to talk about today? And it's interesting how this has come to play in my coaching life today. I realized I was being prepared for this moment. So that is my first tip. I promised you 3 tips today. We move on to the next tip, which is managing distractions. We are all busy. Whether you're employed, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a stay-home mom, it doesn't matter. We get a lot of other things that we are doing, together which then our children are part of. So we end up having so much to do within so many hours in a day that at times we multitask and we allow distractions to come into that moment where we are riding in the car together. That moment when we're sitting at dinner, that moment when we're sitting in the living room, or even sadly, that moment when we are putting our child to bed. So we need to figure out a way. How do we manage distractions? And I like what Njoki is saying. Women need to stop multitasking. They need to take time to have meaningful conversations with their children. Indeed, I couldn't agree with you more, Njoki. Because in the multitasking, do you know actually what you're doing in multitasking? You're not concentrating on one thing. So you're not giving it your best. Now, one of the tasks that you're multitasking on is your child. So what you need to be doing is not necessarily doing away totally with the multitasking, but at least making sure that the person you're concentrating on in that instant is your child. They've come to you and they've asked you a question. Stop whatever you're doing. Come into this moment. Look them in the eye, even if it means holding them, so that they know mom's got me. Mom is listening. You know, those little things, they matter. And your active listening will be things like, the little grunts that you make. I hear you. Is that what happened? You're with them. You're engaging. And even if you've got something else to do, you can say, why don't we have a moment on that seat? Let's get something to eat or drink and sit down and chat. Let mommy finish this first. You prepare that corner. You're telling this child so many things, but the loudest one is, you matter, my child. You matter. So I'm going to stop doing all these other things and come to you. And Njoki, you continue to say, women will make dinner for the whole family and end up eating by the kitchen sink as they do dishes. This is so true. Painfully true. Yet, it's not the washing of the dishes or the quality of the dinner that matters to those children. It is your presence. So be present. And just talking about those distractions, Njoki, my example comes from the time when my children were in their activities in school. So I had a swimmer, I had an actor, there are only 2, but amongst the 2, there was a swimmer, there was an actor, there was a footballer, there was a basketballer, there was a rugby player. Now, when they would have their activities, whether they were going in just to practice or whether they were going in to have their games or competitions, I would always be there as much as I could. I would always be there. I was those parents who were non-social. Non-social. It wasn't the time where we had our phones and we're all on our phones. No, but we did have phones after a certain time. My phone was in my handbag on silent. And I sat alone, Njoki. The reason I sat alone is because if I sat with you, Njoki, we most probably are going to start chatting and catching up, because this is when we're catching up. And I'm going to lose that gift of being present for my child in that moment. But you know what? I did not care. I came there for my children. I didn't come there for the other people. If I came for the other people, then I sat with them. But I came there for my children. So I can assure you, no matter what age your child is, when they're little, I would go in and hug them and say, Mommy is here, and I'm sitting right there. And you can see they always look out for you, always look out for you. They feel assured. As they grew older, there was no hugging. There was no connection, because that's the height of, like we say in Nigeria, embarrassment. You do not exactly go to that child at that point. You're embarrassing them. So what I would do is just go and sit in a specific area, and they would find me. Their eyes would find me. And later on, as we drive home, I would be asked, Mom, did you see when I did this? Mom, did you see what that other person did to me? And then what I counted on that. And I can respond truthfully that I was present. And that is how I was managing distractions when we are outside for my children. But back to Njoki. The distractions here could be in making the perfect dinner within the given time, so that people can eat at a certain time and then be able to go to bed, especially on school nights. And you can get lost in all this. Even as we're sitting at the table, you're busy bringing in a warmer dish or clearing out something, forgetting that your presence is key. These children want to see you, to hear you, and this is when they want to share their day with you. And I mentioned earlier on, sadly, even when it comes to putting your children to bed, you're so busy that you want to go off maybe to answer your emails, or to catch that Netflix movie, or to get that call, somebody's calling you and you haven't been able to chat with them the entire day, or to push that last report of the day because you left the office early to be with your children. And you lose that opportunity to put your child to sleep because of all the other distractions, which are important, but at this point, this is your child. How about putting your child to sleep and taking a moment with them and maybe showing them what gratitude is all about? We're going to be talking about gratitude in episode 3, but just a little bit glimpse now. Whenever I put my children to bed, it became a prayer time. And we gave thanks to God for everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever happened. So there was a child who was bullying me today and I didn't feel happy. Well, we give thanks to God that you knew not to hit back, that you knew who to report to. We give thanks to God and we pray for this child, that they may find peace in their lives, that they don't show up as a bully. Because any bully, there's something that is missing in their lives, and therefore they act it out. This was the moment then that we would pray with my children for life, for the greatness that we're going to sleep and get repurposed to wake up tomorrow for another day. And yesterday, as I was putting this program together, it was late in the afternoon. It then came to my attention, because I had been at my desk the entire day, that there had been an accident not far from my house. And a motorbike rider and his passenger had been hit, and then fortunately they had died on the spot. So many things to give thanks to God for. Life. Life that it wasn't you or your loved one, but in case it was, again, it is a moment of prayer to give thanks for the life that has been lived and the memories that we have been left with. Having said that, further up the road, everything was happening down my road yesterday, but I was in the house. The other one that was happening yesterday was there was a landlord who came to evict the tenants. Look at that. We give thanks that we have a roof over our head, that we were not evicted today. And we pray that whoever has been evicted, there's a place for them to go to. The landlord has their reason why they evicted. We don't know the facts. All we're doing is watching and seeing. Prayer time when you put your children to bed. However, you're contributing that there is a lady that when trying to put her toddler to sleep, as she has a lot of noise in her sleep time, becomes a burden. So she's trying to release anxiety, noise before they say bedtime. I'm not exactly sure what the message is there, Haveri, but I'm going to garner a guess that the child is very active. And really at that time of sleep, it is the hardest thing to do. If this is the case, Haveri, then your sleep routine with this child needs to change. You need to either change the diet that this child is consuming so they are able to slow down to that point of falling asleep, because they need to sleep to recuperate. If not, then your sleeping time needs to be one of those things where you're sitting, you're listening to music, calming music, you're reading a book together or reading a book to them if they're not of the age of reading. You need to turn around that experience of the bedtime. And this is you being present. But thank you so much, Njoki, and thank you so much, Sally, for contributing. The question continues today to be asked. Sally, you say the toddler causes chaos. Yes. Well, in the beginning we talked about, thank you for that clarity. We talked about routines. Once you have a routine and a structure with your child, the chances are that when it comes to the time of sleeping, your child automatically knows it's time to sleep. And even if at that they've had quite an anxious day full of activity, they will still end up blacking out. You will see at a certain time, they cannot keep their eyes open. So yes, the toddler will cause chaos. Most probably, you need the opportunity to bring in a routine into this child's life. And you say, sensing the anxiety in the mother, that's another thing. So if you come, you cannot wait to get back to all those things that Njoki is talking about, multitasking. Your child can read your anxiety levels and therefore use it as a huge excuse that it's not time to sleep. It's not yet time to sleep because even mom is not calm. Well, we'll move on to the third tip of today. The third tip is quality time. This is where you create memories. The memories that my children remind me of, I end up finding that most of them is when I was so broke. And I had memories with my children in the house. But those are the ones that they remember. And here I am thinking when I was splashing and throwing money at them for trips and days out and stuff I was buying them. Those are not really the memories they remember. They remember the times they didn't know that I was broke, but they remember the times when I sat with them and we did something together. Half of the time it's because I did not have enough money to leave the house with them and get them doing something while I did something else. Njoki is talking about multitasking. So I would put them, and I don't know whether you're familiar with this, but there's a junction mall next to my home, and there used to be a jungle gym for children. And that's where I would go pay for my kids to be in the jungle gym so I could do my hair, I could do my shopping, I could name it. Multitasking and losing the opportunity to be present with my children. So when I didn't have money to do all those things, we were in the house. And we ended up doing things together, exciting things together. And they remind me to this day. So for me, it was an aha moment. I thought I was being present by letting them do the fun things. They wanted me in that jungle gym. Or they wanted me hanging around and seeing them as they swung from one pole to another, doing interesting things, cartwheels, somersaults. But where was mom? I was multitasking, Joki. That is what I was doing. So yes, quality time is key. So just think about you. What is quality time for you? What did you do with your children? Even now, if they are adults, the way I have adults, what is it that you're doing with them? Sitting down with a child and having a conversation does a lot for this child. Apart from them feeling secure, apart from them feeling seen and heard, they just know that you are the best parent. Can you imagine when a child tells you, that felt good, mom, or you are the best, or I love you, mommy, and I want to be around you. That motivates you enough to do exactly what you've just done and replicate it over and over again. And this is how you form a habit of looking for those pockets of time for quality time. Well, today we've come to the end of our session, and the question that was begging to be answered today, and I was hoping people would answer it here for me, but thank you Njoki and Havere for engaging me here. The question was, how can parents stay present with their children? You see, staying present with your children and you're very busy is not easy. However, with these 3 tips that I have shared with you, create a routine. A routine, and your child will literally fall in line, and this will reduce your stress but increase the bonding and the connection that you have with your children. Have a routine, because the routine also allows you to take time to rest and then manage distractions. I gave you that crazy idea of mine, but I lived it. I would go for the games or for the plays and I would sit alone, because chances are if I sat with somebody, they want to talk. And when my child looked up, they would see that I'm not looking at them. I'm looking at this other person or that other person. I'm not paying attention. And then the message is that they're not important. They're not present, that I'm not present for them. And then last but not least was those pockets of time, the quality time. You need to put that together. So managing your distractions, focusing on quality time, you will be able to create a meaningful interaction with your child and strengthening that relationship with them, even in the midst of a hectic life. Thank you so much for joining me today on Tuesday Talks at 3. Here are the takeaways, the benefits of being present with your children despite your busy schedule. Connection, 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 managing your distractions, and creating memories. These are things that you can remember and plug and play. Well, the recording of this episode will be available on my YouTube channel by this evening, and I want you to hop on there and subscribe for updates on what is coming next. But episode 3 is already here. Like I said, it's going to be about easy practices that will help in strengthening these bonds, because now you have awareness and now you understand what presence looks like. So see you for episode 3. In the meantime, our social media platforms will be educating you and inspiring you. Let us help build each other. Until then, be kind to yourself. Bye-bye now.